As I rode through the white wastes towards the mountain fortress of Gorhym Keep, my horse's hooves crunched upon a layer of snow so thick that it seemed to swallow the world whole. The silence around me was unnerving. Even the wind had been stilled by some arcane force as I ventured closer to this cursed place. My breath frosted before me, and yet no warmth could be felt within my breastplate or fur-lined cloak. The keep loomed ahead like a tomb carved from stone and ice, its battlements reaching skyward against the leaden heavens. I had been dispatched by King Eric to retrieve an ancient artifact, a weapon said to have once warded off an unspeakable terror known only as the Howling God. The Order of the Pale Flame had protected it within these very walls, but now they were empty and silent. Upon reaching Gorhym's yawning gates, I found them standing open, as if inviting me into a mausoleum where all who entered would join their ancestors in eternal rest. The fires that should have been roaring within the hearth hall lay cold and blackened, while the banners of forgotten lords hung limply from the rafters above. A chill not born of winter gnawed at my bones as I dismounted and made my way across the courtyard, treading lightly on cobblestone slick with frost. The first sign that something was amiss came when I attempted to call out for any survivors who might still be hiding within these walls. But instead of echoing off stone or steel, my voice simply vanished into a void more profound than any crypt or catacomb could hope to contain. And yet, there were whispers on the air, ghostly fragments that danced around me like threads plucked from some discordant symphony. They seemed almost familiar, as if they echoed thoughts long buried within my own mind. Ignoring this strange phenomenon, I pressed forward into the heart of Gorhym Keep. Everywhere there were signs of hasty departure. Written prayers left abandoned on parchment, bloodstains smeared across stone floors and walls, weapons cast aside as if their owners had fled in terror from some unseen foe. But try as I might, not a single body could be found. Only echoes trapped within the ice itself. Memories frozen into crystalline tableaux that spoke of horrors beyond imagining. Descending deeper into the labyrinthine vaults beneath the fortress, I felt myself succumbing to an oppressive weight unlike anything I had ever experienced before. It was as if the very silence were consuming me from within, a creeping dread that gnawed at my sanity like rats feasting on carrion left out in the dark. And then, in the depths of Gorhym Keep's subterranean catacombs, I heard it, a sound unlike any other, a howling so profoundly alien that it seemed to rend reality itself asunder at its very core. The voice of the Howling God echoed through those ancient halls, shattering whatever illusions remained about the true nature of this accursed place and its guardians. For surely they must have known what lurked beneath their feet all along, but by then it was too late. I had already stumbled upon the weapon that King Eric sought so desperately to possess. Its twisted form gleamed with an ethereal light, pulsing in time with the rhythm of my own heartbeat. Or perhaps it was merely echoing the distant whispers of a long, dead god whose name has been lost to antiquity. As I lifted the artifact from its resting place, I felt something stir within me, a spark that threatened to consume my very being, if allowed to grow unchecked. The voice of the Howling God grew louder still, not just in volume but also in intensity. until it seemed as though every fiber of my existence was being torn apart by some unseen force beyond comprehension. And so here I stand atop this desolate mountaintop, gazing out over a world that has become little more than an echo chamber for the madness trapped within these walls. The artifact rests beside me, its power both intoxicating and terrifying in equal measure. And though I know not what lies ahead, or how much longer my sanity can withstand this unending assault on reality itself, one thing remains clear. I have found the weapon that King Eric desired above all else. But at what cost? The artifact pulsed in my hand like a beating heart, or perhaps, more accurately, an alien thing seeking to consume me from within. Its power was palpable now, seeping into every fiber of my being and twisting it towards some unseen purpose that I could not comprehend. And as the voice of the howling god grew ever louder in my mind, I began to realize just how deep this rabbit hole went, and what monstrous truths lay hidden beneath its surface. For you see, Gorhym Keep was never truly abandoned. It simply chose to hide itself away from prying eyes until such time as one deemed worthy by the dark forces that resided within would come seeking the weapon they had so carefully guarded for centuries upon end. The Order of the Pale Flame, Joe's once famed protectors, whose banners hung limply above me now, were not merely victims of some unseen horror, but willing participants in a ritual far more sinister than any mortal mind could fathom. As I stared out over the blasted landscape surrounding Gorhym Keep, my vision began to swim before me. The world seemed to warp and bend under the weight of an oppressive darkness that crept ever closer with each passing moment. And yet, still, there was something compelling about this place. A siren song whispered on the wind, calling out to those who would dare venture into its grasp. And so it was that I found myself drawn deeper into the labyrinthine catacombs beneath Gorhym Keep, driven by an insatiable curiosity born of madness itself. The whispers grew louder now, echoing through the darkness like a chorus of forgotten gods clamoring for release from their eternal slumber. And all around me there were signs of some unseen struggle, broken weapons strewn about like discarded toys, mutilated corpses left as offerings to an entity whose true nature remained shrouded in mystery. At last, I came upon a chamber unlike any other, its walls adorned with ancient runes that seemed to pulse with an ethereal light. It was here that the weapon lay waiting for me, a twisted monstrosity of metal and bone fused together into some unholy union that defied all logic and reason. And as I reached out towards it, I felt my sanity slipping away like grains of sand through an hourglass. "Welcome," whispered the voice of the howling god from somewhere deep within my mind. "You have come seeking power, have you not? Well then, behold your prize." And with those words, the artifact erupted into a blaze of unholy fire, filling every corner of that accursed chamber with a light so bright it threatened to blind me where I stood. In that moment, I knew beyond any doubt that I had crossed over into realms forbidden to mortal man, and there was no turning back now, for the weapon in my hand held within its twisted form not just power, but also knowledge. Secrets buried beneath layers of time immemorial that promised untold riches to those brave enough or foolish enough to seek them out. But at what cost? The question echoed through my mind like a distant memory, lost amidst the swirling maelstrom of madness and despair. And yet still, I could not resist its pull, drawn ever forward into darkness by an allure that promised untold pleasures but delivered only pain. As I staggered back towards the surface world, clutching my prize tightly against me, I felt something stir within those ancient halls, a presence both alien and inhuman that seemed to laugh at my folly, even as it whispered secrets of unspeakable horror into my ear. And though I knew not what lay ahead, or how much longer my sanity could withstand this unending assault on reality itself, one thing remained clear. I had found the weapon that King Eric desired above all else, but in doing so, I had unwittingly opened a door to realms beyond mortal comprehension. And there was no turning back now. As I emerged from the bowels of Gorhym Keep, blinking against the harsh sunlight that pierced my eyes like daggers of fire, it felt as though an eternity had passed since I first set foot within its accursed walls. The world around me seemed to have changed somehow, warped and twisted by forces beyond mortal understanding. And yet still, there was no denying the triumphant grin that spread across my face like a stain upon the fabric of time itself. For in my hand lay not just power but also knowledge, secrets buried beneath layers of time immemorial that promised untold riches to those brave enough or foolish enough to seek them out. But as I made my way back towards King Eric's court, carrying the weapon that would surely grant me all he had ever desired, and more, besides, a sense of unease began to gnaw at me from within. It was as though some unseen presence lingered in the shadows just beyond the reach of my senses, watching, waiting. I tried to shake off these irrational fears, telling myself that I was simply exhausted after days spent wandering through those treacherous catacombs beneath Gorhym Keep. But even as the walls of Eric's stronghold loomed before me like a beacon of hope amidst the gathering darkness, something inside whispered ominously, "You have awakened powers beyond your comprehension, and now there can be no turning back." And though I did my best to ignore these eerie warnings, they lingered in the back of my mind like a haunting refrain, growing louder with each passing moment, until finally, as I stepped through the gates into the heart of King Eric's domain, I could no longer deny that terrible truth. For there, standing before me in all its horrific glory, was a figure unlike any other, twisted and grotesque, with eyes that burned like coals from the depths of hell itself. And as it opened its mouth to speak, revealing rows upon rows of razor, sharp teeth glistening wetly beneath unholy light, I knew instinctively what this monstrous being had become, the embodiment of everything that lay hidden within those ancient halls, the dark heart of Gorhym Keep, given form and voice by my own insatiable curiosity. And as it lunged forward with a roar that shook the very foundations of reality itself, I realized too late just how deeply I had fallen into its grasp. The weapon in my hand seemed to pulse now with an unholy energy, feeding off the terror and despair that filled every corner of this once famed stronghold. And as I watched helplessly as King Eric's court crumbled around me like a house of cards caught up in a whirlwind, I could not help but wonder, had it all been worth it? And as the echoes consumed me, Laughter, whispers, teeth. I understood at last. I was never sent to retrieve the weapon. I was the offering.